Yo, how is it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Crucible Brothers. My name is Lionhearts, and today we're going to be continuing our look through some of the King's Fall weapons, returning to Destiny 2 with the raid. And today we're going to be talking about the Zaouli's Bane, the hand cannon that I will mispronounce at least 15 different ways during the course of this video. So look forward to that. Criticize me in the comments if you want. I won't read them. Anyways, the Zaouli's Bane is infamously one of the worst raid hand cannons from Destiny 1, so when it came back into Destiny 2, Bungie went out of their way to juice this baby up, give it some nice stats, a whole hell of a lot of interesting perks, and turn it into one of the most unique PvP hand cannons that I have ever seen. Not necessarily the best, and there are definitely better options if you want the straightforward, most meta hand cannon in the game, but what I think that Zaouli's Bane does correctly, no other hand cannon can achieve, and we're going to go over that in today's video. Before we get any deeper though, make sure you guys take a second, like the video, leave a comment down below to help out with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to the channel for more content coming your way. Make sure you also check us out on TikTok, follow me on Twitter to get updates about new videos, all that good stuff, and let's get right into the content. So straight up, I think there's really only one reason to pursue the Zaouli's Bane in the Crucible, and that's because it has access to one of the most important, crucial, and transforming perks in the game, and that is Enhanced Hip Fire Grip. Now, we've talked about Enhanced Hip Fire Grip a few times on the channel. It's actually my favorite perk in the entire game because it changes the weapon entirely. Here's what you need to know. When you put Enhanced Hip Fire Grip on a weapon, think of that weapon essentially becoming a BXR-55. The BXR-55 is a pulse rifle that has essentially perfect hip fire aim that's built into the weapon. Whenever you put on Enhanced Hip Fire Grip, you get more or less the same effect. Now, it's not quite one-to-one, there is still a tiny little bit of inaccuracy, and that could be dependent on other perks, the stats of the weapon, some weird stuff with how Destiny just works in terms of hit reg, but more or less, Enhanced Hip Fire Grip equals BXR equals perfect hip fire. And the reason that's so valuable is because it changes the fundamental way you go about playing the game. When you have perfect hip fire aim, it changes a lot of how you would approach certain gunfights, especially in the close to mid range. If you can no longer ADS, but maintain very good to great accuracy, suddenly you have a lot more room to use your movement, your full strafe speed, your dodges, whatever have you, to outmaneuver and break the ankles of your opponents. Something that I'm very fond of as a playstyle, as we've covered ad nauseum on the channel previously. The important part to note is that you shouldn't rely on Hip Fire Grip entirely. It's more of a support perk. It's an extra option in your tool belt. It's another thing to add to your playstyle. You don't want to hip fire all the time because when you're hip firing, you're reducing your effective damage fall off. The hip fire could be like a backup or an opener or a way to get that last shot off before someone gets around the corner. You have to look at it as more of a supporting perk. And when you do that, it suddenly changes how you look at the Zaouli's Bane as a whole. Because I think people are going a little too far here with how they're trying to value this hand cannon. Because when we think of hand cannons, we think of them as the main backbone of a loadout, the primary weapon that you will engage with 90% of your duels. But let's be honest, Destiny 2 has a lot of special ammo. It has a lot of variety. You don't necessarily need to rely on a hand cannon as your main engagement tool if you build your loadout in certain ways. We have options like very strong special weapons like Arbalist or sniper rifles. And my personal favorite option is something like Forerunner, which is a weapon that takes special ammo but very much behaves like a primary weapon. And when you approach things from that perspective, where your hand cannon is more of a support tool, then I think Zaouli's Bane shines as a very unique weapon. So first, let's talk about perks. When you're building this weapon, you're going to want to invest in as much accuracy as possible to make your hip fire shots and even your aim down sight shots as sticky as you can. So honestly, even though it's not my favorite perk, I'm highly going to recommend Enhanced Eye of the Storm here as your second right column perk. Enhanced Eye of the Storm not only procs sooner, taking less damage to give you the benefit, it also gives you a greater net accuracy bonus than compared to the normal perk. All in all, it's fantastic. Enhanced Eye of the Storm is one of the coolest perks of the game. Even though I'm still not personally a fan of having to take damage to get the benefit, I can recognize that the benefit is extreme enough to be warranted here, especially when you consider that the other options in your right column don't necessarily synergize with how we're trying to use the hand cannon in this playstyle. After that, I would build for range and then go with small bore as kind of your all-purpose barrel. What I like about small bore is that it has no downsides, a little bit of stability to help out with flinch resistance, and it still gives you a little bit of range. But honestly, you could probably just go with full bore here if you just want maximum range, or maybe like Fluted Barrel if you want handling for swap speed. All of those are very valuable. Then I just stick to a ranged masterwork as I don't really need the stats allocated elsewhere, and I will take the extra damage fall off anywhere I can get it. So the loadout that I ended up having the most success with this hand cannon was again to transform it into this support hand cannon. So I paired it up with Forerunner, and the synergy of Forerunner being just a bigger hand cannon in itself ended up working out really well, because you have Forerunner to take your super long range duels or to put out Chimp, and then you have this hand cannon that you can swap to in your back pocket that allows you to deal with the close mid-range duels where you don't necessarily have to worry about the damage fall off. You're essentially making up for the fact that your hand cannon doesn't have infinite range by bringing a bigger hand cannon in your special ammo slots. This ended up having a lot of synergy similar to running a sidearm with Forerunner, as Forerunner is one of the best weapons in the game by itself, so obviously we're taking something very strong to begin with, but then we're pairing it up with something that actually helps to cover its weaknesses. Obviously, one of the big weaknesses of Forerunner is that it doesn't kill in one shot like other special weapons. So there are situations where you can put out a lot of chip damage, but maybe not be able to get the cleanup before you run out of ammo. And that's where you can swap to your Zaouli's Bane, and guess what? Hip firing your Zaouli's Bane effectively gives you 100 aim assist, a giant hitbox, and about 28 meters of effective range to work with from the hip. Keep in mind, 28 meters, that's pretty much your average engagement distance in this game that you no longer have to aim down sights with to still have something that's relatively reliable. Again, not saying you're always going to hip fire, but that's the realm that you can work inside if you do. Now, while this loadout is definitely effective at being this mid-range duelist, this gunslinger just absolutely popping off left and right, it obviously has some huge weaknesses. Like, what do you do if a fusion rifle or a shotgun or an SMG gets right up in your grill space? Well, again, you have hip fire, so you don't necessarily have to worry about being slowed down in those close range engagements to try and get off accurate shots. And plus, I play Titan, which means I have access to knockout, which means if I hit one headshot, one body shot with my hand cannon, I can then instantly melee you into the dirt and then chain melee your teammates. So my knockout becomes my shotgun. But while this loadout is very fun and very interesting, I would be remiss if we didn't talk about some of the downsides of the Ravioli's Bane. The first thing to note, this weapon is huge. It takes up a lot of screen space, especially when you're aiming down sights, but you still nose it while you're hip firing as well. This thing's gonna cover up stuff that might be important to you. You're gonna accidentally cover up the model of someone. You're gonna lose very slim hunters while aiming down sights sometimes. This is unfortunately just a drawback of the weapon. It's thick, it's got 3 Cs, and there's not much you can do about that. Unfortunately, I wish Bungie would take stuff into account like this when making their models, but what are you gonna do? This is just how things go, unfortunately. The other massive downside is unfortunately what I like most about the weapon, and that's the fact that no matter what, if you're relying on hipfire, you're never going to be as accurate, you're never going to be as consistent as someone who has like a perfectly crafted Ias Luna. Those weapons are built to be as consistent as humanly possible and take best advantage of players with a very high aim skill ceiling. And I respect that. That's the playstyle they've chosen to pursue. What I like about the Zaouli's Bane is that I'm taking a little bit of risk on board for a different playstyle. I don't mind that, because the way that Hipfire Grip opens up my ability to play the game my own way, I find transformative enough to be worth the downsides of not having a hand cannon that's as consistent. Because I could just build for consistency. I could go Eye of the Storm, Explosive Payload, Max Range, and have another hand cannon in the energy slot that's just another Fatebringer, another Ias Luna, another Palindrome. But I already have those hand cannons. I already have those rolls in my inventory. So why not pursue something that's entirely unique? Something that I can't get elsewhere. There is no other enhanced hipfire hand cannon in the game. There's Last Word, but Last Word is its own beast. It's its own unique playstyle. So Zaouli's Bane has a place in my vault because nothing else does what it does. I should also note that this weapon is fantastic in PvE. Get Incandescent, Explosive Payload, that's a fantastic energy hand cannon. You pair that up with the intrinsic perk allowing you to overflow with teammates. It's wonderful. Overall, compared to something like the Doom of Chelchis, which we just recently reviewed, I do think the Zaouli's Bane is worth your time to pursue and craft for PvP. You can go the traditional route, be a little bit boring, but I suggest you try out Enhanced Hipfire Grip. Try it out on those other weapons too, Firefight, Syncopation, Without Remorse. Any weapon that has Enhanced Hipfire Grip should be something you should consider because it is 100% going to be one of the most unique weapons in the game. I mean, I don't even have to say it, the BXR is arguably a top 5 weapon in the game, and part of that reason is its hipfire accuracy. So don't sleep on those perks, give them a try. Let me know if you guys have always been in the comments down below, and let me know if you've been enjoying it. Other than that, we have more reviews coming your way. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe for more content, and we will see you guys in a video soon. You guys have a wonderful day. Peace.